Critter Trades here, and today we're going to go over the common problems for the new Jeep Grand Cherokee WL, which is model years 2021 for the long wheelbase, the L version, and 2022 plus for the normal two-row Jeep Grand Cherokee. And I've had this Jeep Grand Cherokee for a couple years now, and we're at 70,000 miles already. And so I've seen a lot of things that can go wrong on these cars. I'm part of a lot of forums, and I've been so for a couple years, and specifically what you're looking to look out for if you are looking to purchase one. Also go over what is wrong with my vehicle after 70,000 miles. Body panel fitment is also never fixed for Jeep. They somehow can't get this right. Specifically the front bumper, where right underneath the headlight always seems to be a tough spot for these cars. The Grand Cherokee, the last model, the one before that, they like to pop out there. You can usually pop them back in, but the body panel fitment is not very good. I will say it is better than the previous model year, the WK2. It does seem to be a little bit better than those years, other than one minor thing with the doors where they hit each other. So the doors will hit each other and chip the paint off. It's not all vehicles. It seems to only be the ones where the doors aren't aligned exactly right. They don't hit all the time, but if the back door is slightly open and the front door is closed hard, they will touch and it will chip the paint off. Ask me how I know. The rear tailgate is a death trap. I think this is pretty common actually on a lot of vehicles with an electronic lift gate. It will crush your fingers if you get them in there. So be very careful with the rear lift gate, and it is known to drain the batteries. Battery draining on these cars is kind of a common thing. It can be from the antenna or the rear latch here, not letting the car know that it's closed and trying to close continuously. So that is another problem. The next thing would be motor mounts seem to be a really big problem on these cars. For whatever reason, they didn't fix it from the previous generation. I've had a WK2, WK1, and the previous, I think it was a JK before that, 2004 Grand Cherokee. And they all seem to have motor mount problems. If you have a rumbling at idle, rumbling while you're steering, or notice oil on the ground under the car that's not motor oil, it's probably the motor mounts, and they probably need to be replaced. I have not had the motor mounts replaced on this car yet. And let me know in the comments if you are having some of these issues or have had some in the past or are worried about having some of them in the future. The thing that pops up that people seem to mention the most on these cars is electrical gremlins. And what that means is that they have some sort of electrical issue with one system or multiple systems of the vehicle. And it can be a pretty tricky thing to diagnose because these cars are so complex and do have a lot on their electrical system. They have 2 batteries for most of them. Some of them are the electric version, the 4xe. And so they do use batteries for a lot of different things. And specifically, the radio seems to have some problems. It seems updating them to the latest firmware or doing a hard reset on them does work. And to do a hard reset, all you do is hold down the power button for 10 seconds. And that fixes most of the problems. I haven't really had any issues with them. It lost my phone one time. I had to reconnect my phone to it, and then it seemed to be working fine after that. One time I did have to restart the system because the screen was just black, but I haven't been having any of those specific electrical gremlins that people talk about. It does seem, though, the good thing is that they typically show up pretty quick in the car's lifetime, like within 10,000 miles, when they're well under the bumper warranty. So typically the dealers will cover those. The one problem you might run into is when they're really extensive and you might have to lemon law the car because it has been in the dealer for so long. So typically if the car is a little bit older, a couple years old, and a couple 10, 20, 30,000 miles on it, it probably isn't going to have any of those big electrical gremlins that you hear about on the internet. The air suspension does seem to be a weak point. I think it's a weak point on any car with the airbags leaking slowly. It doesn't seem to be too big of a problem on these cars yet, but again, I think they're a little bit too new for those problems to start popping up. If you can get one without air suspension, I would recommend that. So given those problems with it, I do think that this generation of the Jeep Grand Cherokee is a little bit more reliable than the previous generation. Time will tell, and let me know in the comments if you've experienced some of these or if you're having other issues that I haven't mentioned down below. But my vehicle has been problem-free for 71,000 miles. Only thing I've done to it is add a battery. The original one went out at around 60,000 miles or so, about 4 years old. But they use mainly the same engine as the previous generation. They didn't add anything extra. They didn't do direct injected. It's still fuel injected like normal. And so the engine's been around for a really long time. And so they have kind of worked out some of the kinks with it. So I do think this generation is going to be a little bit more reliable than the WK2 generation, which is a good thing. And time will tell, so I'll be updating this as well and maybe giving out a 100,000 mile update and maybe posting if I have any other issues with my car.